Man.
I'm gonna put this in the floor.
We'll just do the clap.
Oh, nice.
Alright. So how are you, man? Finally got here.
Yeah.
Finally able to meet up and speak.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this for a while, man. I'm feeling very good about it.
So, you know what it is? I reached out because I was looking at your page, right? And I was just listening to some of your videos and I was thinking to myself, like, wow, this guy really knows how to speak and evoke sort of like motivation and passion in people. Where did that come from, man?
If I'm honest with you, this is really funny. So I've been reflecting on this lately. It was coming in the beginning from a deep anger about a lot of things that had happened with me, but also things that I was seeing in other people. And one of the things that I based my channel on was I want to make spirituality practical for people.
Right.
And I would see, you know, gurus and people on YouTube speaking in very soft voices, and we don't want to evoke too much emotions. Yeah. And I wanted to come in the game like a bull in a china shop. Like, no, I'm not taking that. I'm not taking these softly approaches. I want to come in the game with something fresh. Like, okay, you say you've got depression. I've been there too. I think it's something that happens with everyone from time to time. It's not just this final destination that you found yourself in. So my anger towards what I was hearing from people was like, oh, you don't understand what it's like. That was the main one I kept hearing. I said, I was where you were, well, I was where you are a little while ago. I instead, because I have Asian parents, they don't understand what depression is. They don't understand these mental health labels. So what I got from them was this doesn't exist. And I mixed that with the approach of, well, I do know that it exists, but there's also something practical that needs to change here. Because I can't just stay in the bed, playing the PlayStation, smoking the weed, and doing nothing. And this is the approach that I watched loads of other YouTube videos about what do you do when you're in that state. And the main thing I kept getting was people were like, you got to think differently, you got to start being positive. And I was like, hold on a minute. I don't feel like getting out of the bed today. Why is that? Oh, it's because I'm choosing to have these bullshit things in my life. Like I have to marry an Indian person. I'm not allowed to do the career that I want to do. You know, the artistic things that I'm interested in are a waste of time. And that's what got me angry. That's when I started, like in 2015, I cut off everyone from my life, except for my parents and my brother. And that's where a lot of the anger came from, not from cutting them off, but from realizing, whoa, like me doing that, 65% of my symptoms went. Like I started getting out of the bed, refreshed, energized, knowing like I don't ever have to go to anything I don't want to ever again. And then suddenly like the rest of my life started looking brighter. And every day I was writing poems, I was making music, I was looking at the PlayStation, like, no. I was looking at people who used to be in my life. I was like, don't think so, Jonathan. I don't want to have anything to do with that. Like,
go with Jonathan.
A lot of that, a lot of the anger that I had towards, a lot of things that had happened in my past, like lots of sexual abuse when I was a kid. I didn't remember these things. Lots of, like, people broke my spine when 2013, didn't remember it. And I kept drinking alcohol back then, and I was a very passive person. And as soon as I stopped drinking in 2015, this lion wolf energy came out of me, and this like excitement for life. Yeah, just because I wasn't dulling my senses anymore.
So, what were you angry about? How did this anger? You spoke a lot about anger, and that obviously anger is an emotion that evokes crazy change. It should be. Where did it stem from?
So in 2015, I was working in a bank, and in February, I had my first MDMA experience ever. And, you know, my friends, they put some of the crystals in an alcoholic drink, and I sipped it a few times, but I was a bit scared. I've always been scared about doing any drugs except for weed. So I sipped it a little bit, very cautiously. I was like, oh, okay, we'll see what happens. Started to kick in. I was like, hey, I'm not... Like, oh, what's going on here? And there was we all split up, and I went off into the dance floor, and I was walking around like just doing this. And all of my life up until that point, I'd hated myself. And this voice in the back of my head came to the front and it was like, hey, I love you, man. And I was like, whoa, wait, what's this coming from? And it allowed me to like, so in my mind, there was one particular experience that I was trying to block out with putting up walls in my brain around it, not to look at it. Because every time I told someone about that, oh, you're a pussy, oh, how can you let this girl do that to you? She used to put like roofies in my drink and then get other people to take me back to my room, and then they would have sex on top of me and weird stuff like that, bro.
Whoa.
And then anytime I would tell someone about it, they'd just call me a pussy or a bitch. So I just stopped talking about it. That was it. So I was in a really toxic relationship from 2010 till 2014. And I went, like, there's a lot of stuff in that too. That was a main cause of anger. I was suppressing a lot of, like, oh, I'm angry about this, but I don't want to talk about it because people kept saying mean things to me. So I just blocked it out. But when I had this MDMA experience, it was like, hey, why are you being hard on yourself for that? Like, it wasn't your fault that this person is choosing to be mean to you in those ways. And just because everyone else thinks a certain way of you, doesn't make it true. And I was like, so I went off the dance floor. I went to sit down by the railings. I just sat there like this. And my friend came over. He was like, oh my God, I knew I shouldn't have given you the drugs, man. What the hell? And I was like, no, do you know what? I've just had some really epic realizations right now. And he looked at me, he goes, God, I thought it was only white people that this happened to when they take drugs. And, you know, I was like, well, look, I don't care about the race thing, but, you know, this is hitting me really hard where I live. So, just started that. Started this like line of questioning for me. Even after like the drug thing finished, the next day I couldn't sleep that day because I had all these questions flying around in my head. And from there I went back to the bank job and I saw everything differently. Like it's you know when people say they have a spiritual awakening and they woke up, it's like I always knew these things were wrong, but they were very low beneath the surface, and I was suppressing it with food, alcohol, weed, video games, getting girls' numbers, whatever it is. And just this just erupted out of me when it was like a process of zooming out of my life. And I saw like this lady, I asked her, how long have you been working here? She goes, 18 years. And I was like, oh, okay, like do you enjoy it? She was like, not really, but I'm like part of the furniture now. And I was like, whoa, wait. Are you a desk? Like, am I supposed to put my laptop on top of you to do this work? Like, what the fuck is going on here? And that's when I started getting angry. Like, I've been lied to my whole life. All of these Indian people have told me, you have to get married, you have to get a job, you have to have children. And my life was built on a series of I have to's. That's where the anger started from originally. And luckily, my brother has always been clued in on this stuff, but he never talked about it because he's 28. He's always been up to speed on this stuff, but he never talked to me about it because he just thought I was an idiot, like playing PlayStation all the time. So I spoke to him about it, and he goes, "Oh, you're just waking up now, okay? But like, you know, you got to do something with your life." And he showed me this video of this guy saying, "You can, if you want to, if you choose to, you can be free. You can go to Bali tomorrow if you want, when you have enough money to do all this stuff, but you ain't gonna get there like that. You have to create stuff." And I was like, shit, what am I going to create? And my brother was like, well, I'm doing music. You can try it if you want. So I started making a bit of music. Then I realized it wasn't like I tried to make loads to get better in a short period of time. I got way better, but I didn't have that love for it. So I just put it to the side. And I started writing poems. And when I was writing these poems, I just short A5 line after line. And it was just anger and resentment and like, just betrayal that was coming out of me. And then I felt like everyone had betrayed me. Like my dad
alright, cool, so we touched on the betrayal thing. You felt that because people were saying to you, look, this is the path in life that you should go because it's safe, and you got disheartened by that, you actually really felt that they betrayed you. Why?
It's not just that. It was like they were saying to me, this is the only path, because if you pursue anything else, you're gonna fail.
What do your parents do?
So my dad runs his own estate agency business. He's been doing it for over 30 years or so now. And my mum helps him run the business.
What's their background? Did they come from?
So my dad came from India when he was like 6, and my mum was born here. My mum was raised very traditional. Like, you're not allowed to go to university. You are going to be someone's wife. Whatever they say for you, that's your life. And my dad, And that's a picture of my grandfather over there. He's a great dude because he came from India with 9 children and he made money here and sent it back to bring them all over here to have a good life. Wow. So my dad had that as an influence to get him to, like, one of his best sayings was, through adversity comes character. And so, yeah, and I you know, the betrayal for me was like, he told you lot, don't settle for what, like, at the time when he came here, white people were spitting on him. In the pubs, it said no blacks, no dogs, no Irish. He was considered one of the blacks. They weren't allowed to rent property because of the colour of their skin and stuff like that. Yeah. And I said to my dad at one point, I was like, you're telling me not to pursue these things that I love, yet your dad told you don't take any shit. Don't settle. And that's where a lot of the betrayal came from. Like, my own community of Indian people, very competitive with each other, very much like, we don't want each other to do well. We're trying to compete, like, my son's this, my son's that. And even when I was at university, it was all about competition. That's a lot of the betrayal that I speak of has come from my own people trying to make sure I don't win. Like, when I was young, I was getting molested and raped by pedophiles and child molesters. They told me, it's because we don't want you to be successful when you're older. Your dad's successful. We don't want that for you. We can't do anything to him, so I want to make sure that his children don't do well. So I only started remembering these things in 2016. Like, it just hit me when I stopped drinking. All of these flashbacks started coming back in chronological order. So the most recent things with my spine, and then the weird sexual stuff that was going on when I was getting drugged, all the way back to when I was 3. And that's when I had all of these bulk of realizations, like, it was too much for me. Like, I was having flashbacks while I was talking to people and I would shut down. And I went to the doctors and they were like, yeah, you have to take SSRIs, which is like serotonin uptake inhibitors or something like that. It's like this medication basically that stops you from getting them. Yeah. And I just said, fuck that, man. I'm not going to turn into a vegetable because I know that this is not a symptom. The treatment is not for the symptom. You need to go deeper and have a look at where's it all coming from and why. And at that time, I hadn't decided on a path for myself. All I knew was that this society is not for me. Like, I don't want it to be about just scrape by.
Do you somewhat resent tradition?
Yes and no. Like, there's some traditions that, okay, for example, like, a lot of the molestation in the Indian community that I come from is, apparently, this is not what I believe, but apparently they believe that you're supposed to pinch the boy's dick when he's really little for good luck. I don't know who the luck's supposed to be for.
Is that an actual thing?
Well, apparently, I've spoken with a lot of people. Apparently, it's common. I don't know. But when I asked people at that time when I was so young, I was like, "Why the fuck are you doing this to me?" They said it's for good luck.
What were they doing to you?
There was some people. This is the difference, right? The traditional thing was just like a little pinch, and then it wasn't designed to hurt me. But then there was other, like, so one part of the family, my extended family, their dad was a legit pedophile. So he was raping kids like me. There was a few other ones. And he was making us perform sexual acts on him as well. And he was inviting other older men to join in. And he would perform these acts with his wife. So he'd be beating his wife up and doing sexual stuff with her, making people like me watch him when I was very young. And then I was between the ages of 3 and 6. When I was 6, I remember, like, I was expecting it to happen again. He goes, "No, you're too old now." Then I got passed over to his children, who started off with, like, so his children there was 3 of them who were a lot older. They were in their late teens, early 20s. And theirs was a lot more malicious. So I think with the pedophile, it probably was happening to him when he was young. This is what I've heard. Like, it happens to them when they're young. They don't deal with it. And then they do it to kids when they're older, when they get older.
You did touch it's a culture thing. Do you really think it's a cultural thing?
I think it's perpetuated throughout all society in different subsections of the culture. And you see it with, like, okay, let's take Family Guy, for example, right? There's that old guy who's got the high-pitched voice and he's perving on Chris. Yeah. I think that's a nod in the direction of it's embedded deep within our society. And that, to me, I watched this episode like very recently and I saw you're trying to normalize pedophilia because they don't, like, I see it as like it's centuries, millennia old. It's been happening for a very long time. And I think it's in deep embedded, especially in the Indian culture, very secretive. We don't talk about certain things. So I think it is partially a cultural thing, but it stems from lots of different places. And I think one thing that makes me scared is like, when I'm 60, am I going to start doing that to kids just because it happened to me? And that's why I used to have a lot of like, I was scared when I remembered this stuff like a couple of years ago. And I was thinking to myself, am I going to have to kill myself one day because I'm thinking about hurting children in that way? And yeah, I'm not there yet. I might have to come to that bridge if I come to it. I hope I don't. But there's no way in hell I'm going to be repeating that. I would definitely rather, like, yeah, I'll check myself into an institution or something.
I mean, for the fact that you're able to recognise it and talk about it, to me, gives confidence that you probably won't do that. Because you're recognising that it's wrong and you want to, make a change. People who've done that to you, have they been arrested? Are they in prison? Oh,
well, that guy's dead. He died when I was like 8, I think. Oh. And the funny thing is, right, so the night before, I knew he was in hospital and this voice came to me and was like, oh, this guy's going to die, and was laughing about it. I was like, hey, that's mean. Like, why are we laughing about that? And he goes, don't you remember what he's done to you? Like, this is not right. And I was like, I don't know. And it goes, say that you want him to die and watch your mom's going to get a phone call the next day and it will say that he's dead. So I didn't want to say it, and then I just ended up saying it because this voice was bullying me. The next day, my mom answered the phone and she's like crying, like, oh my God, I can't believe it. And that the eulogy, the guy's nickname in the family was JP, and it means jolly person. And I just thought, like, when I reflect on that now, back then the voice was like, okay, it will all come out. Like at the eulogy, the guy's daughter couldn't say, like she said, oh, he was known as the jolly person. Then she was like, I can't say this. And she walked off and someone else had to carry it on. Because, again, the secrecy.
So the people in the family know?
Oh, yeah, I think a lot of them knew. Well, that's another thing, right? So these people that I used to be related to, I say used to be because I choose my family now, right? So, like, these people, they made a joke out of it, and fairly recently as well. So some of them actively told me, do you remember what we did to you when you were a kid? And they started laughing about it. But then before that, they go, oh, his dad used to like kids, and they laughed about it. And I was like, huh? And they go, and I didn't remember any of it at this time. And they go, yeah, he probably liked you when you were younger as well. I said, hold on a minute. You're telling me that you knew there was a pedophile in our family and you did nothing about it? And then they all went silent. I said, no, I know you're joking. I know you're lying. And they said, no, we're being serious. I said, I refuse to believe that my family members would not say anything about this if there was a pedophile amongst us. And then one of them goes, yeah, well, we didn't say anything, so we'll shut up about it. So I think there was widely known. His wife definitely knew. I think a lot of people knew about it. And I was very vocal about it when I was a kid. Everyone told me I was lying. Everyone told me, no, he wouldn't do that. He's married. Why would he do that? He has a family. He has children himself. He wouldn't do these things. And he laughed because I told him, like, I would tell people in front of him and he would just laugh at me. And he was like, yeah, no one's going to believe you. And if you tell the police, I'm going to kill you. And I was like, I remember standing up to him one day. I said, you can kill me. I know you're not going to. And he started hurting someone I cared about in front of me. So then I had to shut my mouth. He used to rape another kid in front of me, and he goes, I'll stop when you stop. Sorry? Yeah, I can't say who it was because they're not ready to talk about it. But what I really realized is this culture of secrecy is what perpetuates these behaviors. And I believe that one of the reasons I'm here is to get it out in the open and help others realize that it's not anything to be ashamed of.
Do you feel a degree of trauma?
Oh yeah, definitely. Still to this day, I'm still working with my stuff, and I don't think that this thing is. There's no like quick fix. So one of the reasons why I'm determined not to take medication or even self-medicate with cannabis or MDMA or anything, like even psychedelics, like I got a great deal of. I made a great deal of progress when I took mushrooms because I went into it with the mindset of growth. Like, okay, I'm going to consult the plant. I had a list of questions written down. asked God about it. He showed me some really dark stuff that I knew I was remembering, but I couldn't bring it to my eyes properly. God like moved the clouds away in my mind and showed me these experiences again in a lot of clarity. And that's when I realized, like, all right, cool. I got a decision to make here. Either I can run from these things or I can face them every day. And it's not like I get flashbacks. Like, it could be I turned on a light and, oh, do you remember when this happened? You could argue that this still happening like in my head. But what I've learned to do is like through spiritual practice, right? So I used to look at these flashbacks like it's something bad and you need to get rid of it and don't think about it. And that's what increased my resistance to it. And what you resist will persist. And when it persists, it's not going to take no for an answer. It's like me now. So I said, okay, let me make peace with the fact that they've happened. Let me stop judging myself because I was a kid and also like I haven't known any better. And yeah, like people apparently who were supposed to be trusted with, you know, we're giving you our child to look after. I can't hold these things against them because all I'm doing... Sorry?
Are they still around? You still speak to them?
Yeah, no, I don't speak to them anymore. I cut everyone off in 2015.
They're still around?
They're still alive and they look at my content sometimes, which is funny. Like on, on Instagram, you can see who's looking at your story. And when I check you know, when people reply to your story in stickers and stuff, I check sometimes and they don't reply or anything, but they're looking quite regularly. And yeah, part of the making peace with these memories and these people is this process of being grateful for literally anything and everything. So like, you got hit by a bus, all right, you know, be grateful for it. Why? Because it's sent to teach you something. And it's not, again, this is not stuff that people want to hear. Like, how can you be grateful for being raped or molested or having your spine broken or whatever it is? These are just my things. I didn't understand how am I supposed to be grateful for that. And then I realized, like, oh, wait, okay, it's taught me stuff. What has it taught me? Okay, I have to choose who my family is. Because you can't... You know, we share DNA with a banana, like 59% or something like that. Is that banana now my dad or something? No, like, it's a banana. So I need to choose who family is. That's one big one I learned. Never give your children to someone. Okay, that's cool. I've learned that. Like, I'm not going to leave my kids around anyone. If I choose to have them in the future. You know, there's like trusting in myself, believing in what I want to believe in, never like settling. Like, I believe these people have done these things because they're living their lives according to I have to. The people who carried on their dad's abuse, he was beating the shit out of them on a regular basis and he locked them in. I don't think he was allowing them to date freely. So they would perform sexual acts with me because they didn't have men to do it with. Maybe. This is just conjecture. I don't know if this is actually true, but it's what it felt like to me. And that has taught me a great deal. Like, I was always scared to have a daughter until I like got out of that really toxic relationship with that girl I mentioned before. I welcome it now. I look forward to if I get blessed with a daughter because I know I have to love her just unconditionally to make sure she doesn't act in these ways.
How many boys did you see get abused?
Okay, so there was me, someone else, at least 5 in total, including myself. But
more that you knew of that you didn't see?
Yeah, definitely. And judging from what people have said to me, yes, I think it was a lot of the boys in my previous family that they just didn't want to talk about it. And and even the guy's son, I said to him, your dad just hurt me with, and then I said the kid's name for penis, the kid's word for penis in the Indian language. And he was just like, here's the Nintendo controller, shut up about it. And then he went into the other room to talk to the other siblings about it. And, you know, like they knew it because his dad would come into the room one time and was like molesting me in the bed and would cover my mouth and I was kicking his son, like kicking the shit out of him behind him, like, wake up, man, your dad's doing something to me. But he didn't want to know. And none of them wanted to know. None of them wanted to say anything about it. And the sickest thing is like they called him JP. And like no one in this house was like, this is again another thing, right? So like everyone I've spoken to about this doesn't want to talk about it. In the Indian community, they don't want to talk about it. They want to pretend that it doesn't exist. Just like depression, just like alcoholism, just like siblings doing stuff with each other, like incest. I've watched a lot of these things happen in front of me. And I said, I made sense of it like it's all happening because no one's talking about it. If we talked about it, maybe that guy would have been in jail. I don't know, because we can't play the what if game, right? But I think if there was a lot more commonplace for us to say, yo, you know, like this happened. Has it happened to you? Yeah, it has. All right, we should do something. I remember I called Childline and then they said, okay, yeah, who was it? And then I couldn't, like, I tried to get other people to call Childline and then I ended up doing it, but I couldn't verbalize it over the phone because I was still like in a mixture between like Punjabi, which is the language we were raised with, and English, and being a kid as well. I couldn't put it into certain terms because I saw the Childline advert and they said if you see something, call us and talk about it. So I was like, all right, fuck it, I don't know how to use the phone, let me just press these numbers and hope something happens. And yeah, that all of what I've got from me reflecting on these things is that, okay, maybe it wasn't supposed to be stopped for me so that I could now be here to make sure that it pushed me to this point where I'm not taking no for an answer anymore. And now that I'm in this position, I can stop it from others. I don't know, maybe like that's another thing that's helped me is constructing a story around these situations that actually serves me.
So have you had therapy?
Yeah, so I don't like it. I felt like they were talking to me like I was stupid.
Why'd you say that?
Because I felt like I was going there to complain, and like, you know, I went to group therapy, so I did like a block of sessions with a therapist, and all I got was like, yeah, sounds like PTSD, sounds like bipolar, sounds like depression, sounds like anxiety. And I'm like, fuck the label. Like, what do I do about it? Yeah. And there was no solutions. There was nothing like future focused. There was no action. There was just, and how does that feel? Oh, it must be hard for you. Do you want to talk about it? There's a certain amount of good that can be done from talking. Definitely. I'm not rubbishing that. But I went to a group therapy kind of recently, and it took me 18 months to get the referral, which is ridiculous. But I went there and there was a bunch of people complaining. And I said to them, I went for like 6 out of the 12 weeks. I said, this ain't for me. And they didn't want me to leave because I was providing like fruitful things to discuss. They were not interested in leaving behind their excuses. One of them said to me, it's all right for you because you run your own business. Then I said, hold on a minute, Jonathan. His name wasn't Jonathan. I said, hold on, bro. Like, you want to make excuses for the fact that you hate your life, but you're continuing to go to the same thing every day. Yeah. Like, stop making the excuse. And then the therapist told me off. Oh, you can't say that. What? Why?
So therapy is not good. Didn't work.
For me personally,
how was it? How did you get over that, or how are you coping with that?
I had a mixture of coaching and therapy. So therapy is past focused, coaching is future focused, and I met some coaches who helped me to talk about this stuff, but I just like I coached myself, I say, but I didn't really. It was just, I talked to myself about a lot of these things and I got it out of me. And then I decided, all right, well, I'm choosing, this is a very insensitive term. I don't use it for anyone else, but for me, I'm choosing to be a bitch about it. And that doesn't mean like crying or complaining. No, it means I'm choosing not to do any different. Like I kept going to these family functions and this tight feeling in my chest and this knot in my stomach and feeling confrontational with people but not being able to like have the honest argument with them. That was giving me a lot of grief, and it was like continuously butting heads with people over stupid ideas that I didn't even want to live by. Like, I was raised to be racist. Let's just call it what it is. Black people are apparently inferior. White people are apparently God. Chinese people are not good enough. All of these things. Muslim people, hell no. You better not even think about being friends with them. I was raised with these ideologies. My parents, they didn't really tell me explicitly this is how to believe. The culture as a whole and their like subconscious influences and who they were told by. Like, as much as I got respect for everyone who paved the way before me, again, when it comes to tradition, I don't care. You don't judge people based on this or what they believe. I don't care what someone, if you're a nice person, I don't care what religion you are. It doesn't really matter to me. It's got nothing to do with me. But we were raised to believe BMW, you're not allowed to marry black, Muslim or white.
Wow, is that what it is? Really?
100%, bro. 100%.
Swear.
And this is another thing that Indian people won't talk about. It's very secretive community, and I'm considered the devil child. I don't mind. I'll take that label all day long, bro, because I don't want these things to be perpetuated.
How people feel if they saw you talking about this now?
Who feel?
That's the community, family.
They don't like it. Every time I bring this stuff up, they don't want to talk about it. Oh, well, yeah, we're more modern now, but, you know, still stay away from certain people. It's very fear-based. This is, again, why the sexual abuse is so common, because this community is very segregated. If you look at the Indian and Pakistani communities, they're very separate from societies that they live in. And now, there's not bad-mouthing them.
No, you're talking.
This is just my experience. And I'm not saying that, like, these people are, like, really evil or anything. I just think it's ignorance.
Do you go back or not?
I'll never go back there again. And, like, not to the village that I'm from, because, like...
Sorry to cut you. Were you born here or were you born...
I was born here.
Okay, cool. But you're from...
So there's a village in India that we're from, right. Phagwara. And I've been there a few times. It's great to get culture shock to make me appreciate living in the West. But, I appreciate living here. I don't think I will go back, because everything I see there reminds me that there's so many problems here that people just choosing to be a part of.
Choosing, I think, is a bit hard.
Really?
Yeah, I think...
We're big boys and girls when we're 25, 30 years old. And it takes a big boy or girl to say, all right, mom, you think you want to disown me because I'm choosing to be with this person I love just because he's not the skin color or whatever that you want. Now you're saying you disown me? All right, cool. That's a big decision to make. Yeah. I'm not saying that you're wrong for not making it, but at the same time, it's a choice.
Yeah.
Now, I have a choice to be a part of that family where they're condoning pedophiles or not to.
How do your family, like your immediate family, your mum and your dad, feel about how you feel now about the family? And are they still in touch with that side of the family?
They would prefer for me to just never talk about it. So I know that there's things I can talk with them about and there's things that they don't want to talk about. Yeah. And me choosing to have a relationship with them consists of it's on these particular terms. So like there's stuff we can talk about, food, yeah, that's great, movies, whatever. When it comes to that, that's still they're choosing to be a part of that at whatever level it is. It's a lot less involved than it used to be, because when I stopped going and I took my brother out of it too, when we made that decision, they started getting backlash. And when they started getting backlash, my mum was like, I don't want to deal with this shit either. She stopped getting as involved. Then my dad realized, oh, this is what they're really like, because he started getting the backlash. They are old fashioned, which is everyone's excuse for like leave them where they are. I didn't want to make that excuse. I said, you lot are not. Yeah, I'm gonna make you aware of it. The choice is yours. And they again, like anyone in the older generation who I talk to this stuff about, they don't want to hear it. And that's not my place to convince them. Like they might not believe it, they might not want to talk about it. I don't know, and I don't really care anymore, bro. It's none of my business.
Do you feel like it's a responsibility now that you have to talk about these sort of issues?
Responsibility in the sense of like, it's my journey and I'm going to be proud to say like, this is how I evolved from where I was to now where I am now. And I believe that if I speak, when like, I've seen it already, right? So with the YouTube channel and the podcast and stuff, when I talk about these things, I had people from India message me saying like, we never thought we could talk about it. And now we're actually having the discussion with each other while we're watching your videos. And that made me cry a lot, man. Like, it really hit me where I live, because I was like, wow, like, that's the impact that I want to have. So it's a responsibility that I choose to take on. Not just as, like, someone who's putting content out, but I look at the responsibility I have here, like, I have the greater good in mind for people when maybe they don't even have it in mind for themselves. So that's something that I choose to take on.
You mentioned a lot like weed and drinking and things like that. Would you say you had like an addiction or have a personality or going through some stuff?
I have a very addictive personality, bro. I used to smoke like 40, 50, 60 cigarettes a day sometimes. And you know, like, let's say like, okay, so you go to music studios sometimes, right? Everyone smokes a bit, whatever. If you're smoking a cigarette, generally they'd ask you to go outside. If you're smoking weed, you'll be all right inside.
Yeah.
If someone goes...
That's actually the rule of studios.
If someone goes outside for a cigarette, they'd probably have 1 or 2, right? I'll smoke my whole deck of 10 or 50 or 20 in that time of like when someone smoked 2 or 3. I would have just... Yeah, because I was addicted to distraction. I was never addicted to the substance itself. I was addicted to constantly occupying my brain or my hands or my eyes or my senses. And I love smoking, bro. Like, when I walk past people who smoke cigarettes, I'm like, oh my God. And I still love it to this day, bro. That's why I know I can never smoke another cigarette again in my life. Because if I pick up one, I'm going to do the whole deck. I'm all or nothing. So that was for cigarettes. It was just, like, in the beginning, I smoked because I thought, like, everyone else was doing it around me. So I was like, yeah, fuck it. Why not? I'll try it. And I liked the feeling. I liked the smell. I liked the taste. And I liked a little bit of it, and I grew to love it. And I used to smoke B&H Golds, like 15, 20 of them would be gone in the space of like under an hour.
An hour?
Most of the time, yeah. And all I'd be doing is like drinking and smoking. And the addiction thing, I mean, the only thing I can say I was mentally addicted to was weed. And I don't say physically because I don't believe it's physically addictive, but I would feel sick if I hadn't smoked. And like, anytime someone would be smoking weed or I knew someone had weed on them, I would be like really on edge about it. And like, I was a dick. Like, people would say, can I smoke some of your joint? And I would smoke the whole thing myself. But if they had weed, I'd ask them, can I have some of yours? And I would always have weed on me, and I would always have a joint rolled. Anytime you see me, I would have something in my mouth that I was smoking or ready to smoke, or a lighter that I was playing with. I never wanted to be alone with the thoughts in my head. I never was comfortable being alone. So I used to hang around people I didn't like just so that I didn't have to be alone. And my drinking got worse when I went to university. Like, I was never been a big drinker before that. I drank once when I was like 16 and I hated it. I puked, I was passed out, and I was like, oh, this is not for me. But when I went to uni, everyone was doing it, and I used to get blackout drunk every single time I did it without fail. And mostly drinking on an empty stomach. And I didn't realize at the time, but it was like, yeah, just subconsciously, I was trying to hurt myself a lot because I didn't like myself and I didn't want to be alive.
Why didn't you like yourself? You said that before. Why didn't you like yourself?
Because I knew I was living a lie. I was trying to be this idea of what I thought Indian kid should be, according to what other people were doing, according to what culture dictated, according to music, society in general. And I didn't like it, but I kept choosing to do it. So when I looked in the mirror, I was like, fuck you.
How long were you say living like that for?
22 years. And then I met, like 21 years. And then I met this angel when I was at university, man. Shout out to you, you know who you are.
Okay.
Yeah, she changed my life, man. And I'm probably going to start crying about it. But
how did she change your life, bro?
Basically, I met her after this. I had a really abusive relationship with this other Asian girl. When I went to university, I met her in my first year. I was a virgin when I met her, and she was a lot more experienced than me, and she was manipulating me with sex. So, just like knocked my confidence until there was nothing left. Told you about some of the weird sexual stuff that was going on. And everything broke off before my final year of uni, but she kept trying to get back in my life, and I was trying not to let it happen. Then I met this girl, she's Greek, and she was a couple of years older than me. And like in the beginning, we didn't really know each other. We just kind of liked the way each other looked, I guess. And the more time I spent with her, she just introduced me to ideas, like without even saying it sometimes. Like she would say to me, I want to spend time with you. And I'd never had that from anyone. And I was like, why? And she was like, 'cause you're cool. I like spending time with you. And I was like, huh? It's not an obligation for you. Like, what? Like, you're not complaining about the fact that, like, you're not making me feel like you have to, and you're not making me feel like you're embarrassed to be around me. You're not making me feel like it's bad to be skinny around you're not pointing out other guys saying you should do steroids so you can look like that. Like, is that what your ex was doing? Yeah, she would act like there was a lot of stuff that she was actively saying. And in the Indian community as well, it's like a big thing that you should be big because that's what men are supposed to look like. And don't cry and don't talk about your feelings, and you should drink because if you don't drink, then you're not a man or you're a Muslim. And if you're a Muslim around these people, like that's a big problem. I didn't know that. Yeah, man. Like Sikh culture, Hindu culture, there's like this thing about being anti everyone. Like Russell Peters makes this joke. He's like, racists hate other people, Indians hate each other. And it's really funny because it is like that. Like if you're not okay, so it's like if you're not if you're not Sikh or Hindu, then yeah, we don't like you. If you are Sikh or Hindu, then you're one of the two, okay? And if you're not one of those two, then it's a caste thing. And if you are one of the caste, then it's a village thing. And if it's a village thing, then it's down to the physical attributes.
That's a lot of pressure, though. Really, that's a lot of pressure to do.
Fierce competition, bro.
Where do you think that stems from?
Scarcity mindset of like nothing's ever good enough. We just want more and more and more, and we need to feel superior because we know that deep down we're not doing what we truly love to do. And I don't know if it's come from colonization. I can't put us in that box because I wasn't there, so I don't know. But I've heard people say like, yeah, when this European invasion happened, it introduced wealth, in material wealth ideas to that place. But I think that's a cop-out, to be honest, man. And even if it's not, let's take responsibility for the fact that it's happening now.
Okay, I feel you. You touched on something earlier that I'm not sure whether you're going to keep talking about it. There was just something I didn't ask you on it. It was your whole parenting thing. Are you going to have children?
Maybe. I mean, at the moment, I think in my mid-30s, that's ideally when I would like to. Maybe when I'm like 33, 35. It just depends, really, man. Like, I try not to plan too much into the future.
Are you fearful of children or having children?
I used to be really scared.
Did you?
I used to be terrified because I was like, oh my God, man, I have so many bullshit insecurities and problems. I don't want to project that onto my kids. Yeah. But then I just thought about it. I was like, I'm doing so much work on myself. I'm so much better than I used to be in loads of things. And, you know, I look at the way I interact with kids now that I don't even know, or like friends' kids or whatever. They're cool. Like, they tell you how it is. I thought I was real. Like, they don't have no filter. So, have you ever heard the rapper Kevin Gates?
Yeah.
His kids are like articulate as hell at like 5 years old. And I thought to myself, like, at that age, I was very articulate until a lot of these things started fucking with my head. Yeah. So imagine if I have kids and I bring them into the world without those limitations, like they could go on to do crazy epic things that they are happy and passionate about. And if I've created the wealth that I desire to give them, they got a springboard to do massive things. So I guess I'm not fearful for them anymore. I'm just fearful for myself. Like, yeah, it's just a weird thing. Like, I thought it was kind of selfish in the beginning. Like, there's loads of unadopted children out there. But at the same time, I have this thing about legacy, like carrying on my grandfather's legacy. It's a romantic idea. So I'm kind of in two minds about it. For right now, I'm 26 years young. I'm old in a young body, as I call it. As I get older, it's becoming more realistic for me to think about it.
Okay. When I mentioned scared or concerned, I was more coming from the angle of what you'd been through. Because I know for me that would probably make me question bring children into the world like that.
Yeah, I mean, like, I would worry about it happening to them, but I know that I would do everything within my power to make sure it didn't. And even if it still did, that would mean it was supposed to happen.
What would you do if it did?
Yeah, well, okay, like, I've thought about this and there's nothing I really can do, right? If it's out of my control, it's out of my control. All I would do is be like, find out who did it, go through the appropriate channels. Because if I kill that person, I can't be a dad for them. So that's kind of...
No, go on.
Yeah, that's kind of like, my hands would be tied to an extent because I would want to make sure that, like, okay, let's make sure this person doesn't get away with it. Put them where they're supposed to be. You can pay to get hits put out on people in prison. I'm not saying I would do that, but it'd be very tempting. If we're living in a country where you can get drugs, we're only 3 phone calls away from getting a firearm. Yeah. Don't ask me how I know that, but I do. So
some are 3 and some are 2, some are 1.
Yeah. Depends who you know.
Are you religious or are you spiritual? Because you talk about being spiritual a lot.
Yeah, I guess like people have an idea of what spiritual means. I'll give you my definition of it.
Go for it.
It's like I'm at a restaurant, like a buffet, right? Not a crappy one, like just a nice one where you've got like lots of different trays in front of you and it's like self-service. So you've got Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, then you've got lots of these different sects. I just feel like I'm going up with the tray, with a plate, and I'm never full up, and I'm just trying little bits of everything. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, that broccoli was nice from Islam. Let's take some of that. And yeah, I'm just constructing my own religion called selfism. I might write the book one day, I don't know, but that for me means that I'm constructing these beliefs that serve me for me and the betterment of anyone's life I come into.
Yeah, that's dope. What happened to your spine?
Oh man. So okay, this is a long story. Okay, so basically, this toxic relationship situation I was in, the girl, her dad was a police officer. So I tried to break it off with her loads of times, loads of times. And she just wasn't having it. She kept saying to me, if you don't do what I tell you to, give me your apartment key, don't come to your room when I tell you not to, just everything, like you're under mind control. If you don't, then I'm going to tell my dad that you tried to do X, Y, Z, all this stuff. And I'm going to tell my brother, and I'm going to tell all these people who live in this city because you don't live here, and we're basically going to keep doing horrible things to you. Yeah. Unless, if you go along with what I say, nothing will happen to you. You'll be all right.
Yeah.
You smoke your weed, shut up, stay out of my business, I'll stay out of yours, that's it. And so I just lived under mind control for a good 3-4 years. Part of that was we went for a study abroad placement in Australia, and she was like, you're gonna fund me, so you're gonna get your parents to pay for me and you're gonna pay for majority of these things. She did a little scam of her own, which I'm not gonna talk about because we're not there yet. But yeah, basically that I went to Australia under those pretenses, right? And while I was there, I just got sick of it. So I was like, look, for the last half of the year that we're there, I'm going to do my own thing, man. I'm going to go and date whoever I want. And I met this Korean girl. Oh, my God. Okay, anyway. I met this nice Korean girl who was really into me. And it was really obvious. And I was like, wow. She jumped on me one day, which I had had never happened to me before. Yeah. And I was like, wow, okay, so she's really into me. And this girl, my ex at the time, she saw that girl was texting me. And she said, I told you you're not allowed to talk to other girls. And she said, what should I do to you now? So I was like, okay. So anyway, I go to this Fitness First around the corner from me. And she's there talking to this dude who was obviously taking a lot of steroids. Yeah. And she kept trying to make me feel bad about how skinny I was. So it kind of worked. So I started taking this mass gainer, and then he started training me without me knowing that they had been cooking up some sort of scheme behind my back. So I think she'd told him that I was hitting her or something like that. And her thing was also she wanted me to pretend that we were together to everyone else in the world. But it was so that it would make it more fun when she would sleep with other groups of guys. Then they would come up to me and be like, yeah, we fucked your girlfriend or something like that. And I was having... Well, dude, I would come back to my apartment sometimes, and there would be groups of people leaving, only guys.
Your apartment?
So we had to live together. I chose to live with her under the mind control thing while we were in Australia. Pretty much every day. How long were you in Australia for? Almost 9 months. Okay, and yeah, I chose, when I would come back to the room, there would be groups of guys leaving, and it would just be her in the room. And the bed would all be lumpy and stuff. And I'm like, what? I can't even sleep on this shit, man. And she'd get people to jizz on my clothes and on my laptop and stuff. And she's like, yeah, clean it out. Just lots of weird sexual behaviors. And but then when it was come to our friend circle, she would see that you have to pretend to be together, otherwise you know what's going to happen. And so I kept living like that. And then the scheme that she cooked up with the steroid guy from the gym was they were gonna something to the effect of they wanted to keep publicly humiliating me in front of people in the gym. So they made it look like I was her boyfriend, but then when she would do personal training sessions with him, they would be really intimate with each other, and people would be like, oh, that's your girlfriend, are you sure that's all right? And I couldn't say anything about it at the time, so I was just like, oh, she's very friendly or whatever, just making excuses. And people would come up to me in the friend circle and be like, yo, she's cheating on you. I'm like, oh, she's not like that, don't worry. But inside I was like, oh God, I hate myself. But anyway, the thing with the steroid guy was I would say to him, I don't think this is good for your health, man. You only got 15, 20 years left, because you keep doing this to your body. Your heart is going to atrophy. The left ventricle wall keeps getting thinner and thinner and thinner, and then your heart's going to give out one day. I don't want that for you. But he took it the other way, which is how dare you? Which, of course, who the fuck am I to say that to anyone? So, whatever. I was 20 years old at the time. And then her and this guy, he said to me one day when I finished training, he was like, see you later tonight. And I was like, okay, didn't know what that meant. So I was like, whatever. So anyways, I was drinking wine that day with a few people, and she put some drugs in my drink. And then I woke up later on and they were having sex on the bed next to me while I was sleeping, which again, I'm used to that kind of stuff by that point. So I just turned over and went to sleep. Just like, I was so tired from the alcohol and whatever they'd put in my drink that I just couldn't be asked. And then she was like leaning over me while she was on top of him saying like nasty things to me. And I was moved out of the bed. I was like, get out of my face, man. Like, leave me alone. Let me sleep. And then it kept doing it. So
what was the guy doing at this point? Like,
he was banging her.
But he wasn't, obviously, but he wasn't like saying, yo, this is crazy. He wasn't.
He was really into like the humiliation aspect of it. So like he kept saying to me after gym sessions, I would have, oh, I fucked your girlfriend, and I would just laugh back and say, she's not like that, man. I knew what was going on. He didn't know that I wasn't the real boyfriend thing because I wasn't allowed to talk about it. So he just kept saying like stuff like, oh yeah, she gives really good head and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that's good for you, man. I'm glad you're happy. And I would just keep it moving. I think that really annoyed people because they wanted a reaction, but I knew what the truth was, so I wouldn't give it to them. And they just got worse. Like for him, I could see he was getting really angry about it, that I wasn't giving him the reaction.
So go on, tell me about what was their scheme?
So yeah, then they realized that it wasn't getting to me. I don't know what they were trying to get out of it. And then I fell back asleep and they wrapped me in the duvet while I was like, when you're being drugged like that, it's like a haze that you can't really move properly and you can't, like, you're slurring your words. And when I got drugged in a bar one time, and after I'd only had one drink, and the guy, I go to the bartender, I've been drugged, can you call the ambulance? And he goes, you're slurring the words because you're drunk, you fucking pisshead or whatever. He goes, just shut up, let your girlfriend take you home. And I was crying, I was like, don't let her, whatever. So this thing, they wrapped me in the duvet and then they were having sex on top of me. So, and like with like a lot of impact to try and hurt my back. Because, so this is where it all comes from. Basically, like her dad had said something along the lines of like, you're a dirty prostitute or something like that. Because he had found out that she was going on this clubbing holiday and she had told me about it. And then we had a really bad argument, and I said, this is the reason why your dad said that to you, because all you want to do is have sex with groups of strangers. And she didn't like it that I told her the truth, and she said, I'm going to make sure you never walk again because you said that to me. So this then comes back to me while I'm lying there. I'm like, oh, okay, this is why she's trying to do it. So then she was like, she would say, when they were doing it on top of me, she was like laughing at me and stuff like, you're a pussy, he's a real man. And I said, real men don't need to take steroids or something like that. So he got really annoyed and I kept making it worse. I kept making everything worse by talking, right? So eventually I kept saying, this is what your dad said to you, and the other guy, you're a pussy because you're doing this and that. And they stopped, they got off me, and then they left the room for a while. And then like for a day or so, I was just like in this haze of like, being drugged, like not knowing what time of day it was or anything. And they'd put a blindfold on me as well, so I didn't know what time of day it was. And I was shouting for people who would like,
this is crazy.
I know, right? No one believes me when I say it as well. Like I've had so many conversations about this. That's like another reason why people who've had sexual abuse don't talk about it, because the truth is stranger than fiction. So I'm in this room for like a good 24 hours maybe, just with my own head. And like in my head, I have this war going on of like, this experience is going to change you. If you don't choose to change after this, I don't know what will. And then anyway, they came back in the room a couple hours later and he kept punching me. Like they stood me up against the wall and he kept punching me in the stomach unless I would drink the alcohol that they were making me drink. And they got me drunk so that I would forget whatever it is they were about to do. And then when I was really out of it, they unwrapped the duvet that I was wrapped in, and then they like laid me over the bed, but so that my front was like hanging off, so my back was bent. And then the guy who was taking the steroids put his hands on, you know, the vertebrae that stick out on your back. He moved a few of them over from the middle to this side over here, like 2 or 3 of them. And you know, yeah, it was the worst pain I've felt, but at the same time, like it wasn't that bad as it sounds. But then they both jumped up and down on my back with like 4. He said to me, I weigh over 90 kg or something before he did it. And they jumped up and down to me, and then they had sex on top of me a few more times, just with jumping impact to make sure that it was properly broken.
So your spine was actually broken?
I guess like, well, this is another thing, right? So I couldn't get out of the bed for a good 36, 72 hours. I can't remember how long it was. And I hadn't eaten anything in a while. And that was the only thing that got me to get out of the bed, was like, I need to eat something. So when I got up, it was all right when I sat like that. But then I tried to get out of the bed and I just fell out. And she laughed at me and like loads, like really like was laughing at me. And then she started crying and it almost like she felt bad about it. And I was like, why? And I didn't remember it again. Like I didn't remember, like I did remember. I was choosing not to, like my brain was doing that trauma thing. And then like I also remembered that I was screaming for help when this stuff was happening. The police actually came to the room, but they had put me underneath the bed and these incompetent police officers didn't check under the bed for me. They had just, people in the building must have been complaining that someone's screaming, can you go and have a look what it is? And they must have just thought these two kids are having wild sex, so whatever. And then I went downstairs and I couldn't turn my neck, I couldn't like bend my back properly. And she said to me, if you go to the hospital to get this stuff checked out, I'm going to tell, you know, whatever, and you're going to go to prison in Australia. So that's the backstory. And you know what's even crazier is how it got fixed. I went to the gym in 2014 and this I call him the ghetto PT. His name's Peter. Shout out Peter, by the way. He was doing a back stretch with me. He goes, you got something on this side of it. What the hell is this? He goes, look, I'm not a doctor or anything, but this is not right. And he goes, do you want me to move it back for you? I go, I don't know what you're talking about, but yeah, do it. He moved them back and I was in agony. And then I felt like that next couple of days, they all clicked naturally into place. And then the only thing that was a bit messed up was the back of my neck, but then the lower back one, yeah, that's insane. And what's even more insane than that is back then at that day, I remember, don't worry about your back, Peter will fix it. I didn't even know who Peter was at the time. So yeah, this is going into another thing. I've had lots of channeling experiences of like when I see future me telling me why or what is going to happen, and then it happens. And everything that's happened in my life right now has been exactly right according to the prophecy that has been told to me. I know how that sounds.
No, I hate it. That's how crazy it's all, bro.
Yeah, it's weird.
Let me go back to this story first of all. Did you go to the police about this?
Nah, well, that's the thing. Like, at that time, I told a police officer what happened, and he called me a pussy, and he just told me to man up. That was in Australia, and I was like, oh, okay. And then he just laughed at me and walked off. I was like, oh, that's a bit peak. But that's the thing. I just stopped talking about these things because people kept telling me I was a pussy. And I would cry a lot as well. So again, like people were just like, bro, you're a pussy. Like I was not able to fight people, like confrontational, like physical fight people, unless I was absolutely 100% demonic, out of my mind, drunk. And even then it was hard for me. But everyone who's always known me has never to engage in physical confrontation, which comes back to the childhood stuff. So everyone just thought, hey, you're a bitch, like this is supposed to happen to you to get you to man up, like do something. And that's what I just thought, oh, it's not for me, so I don't know what to do.
How many times have you been drugged?
Drugged? Mm-hmm. All right, let's go back to... okay, so from the times that I would say... Australia, good at least 7 times, and then when I came back, she did it a few more times, and then. So you were with her when you came back? Well, I wasn't wanting to, but she stole the key from my apartment, and then she said, "You know what I'm gonna say, so don't even bother getting your locks changed." And then her and her brother did lots of like really. They came into my room at night when I was sleeping and they tied me up and they did lots of weird sexual stuff and filmed it and made it look like I was enjoying it, because they said, if you don't act like you're enjoying it, we're gonna tell my dad you did these things. So they said their blackmail to me was, we're gonna send the video around to the whole university and make sure everyone knows you're gay. And I knew that I wasn't, and there's nothing wrong. Like if someone's gay, whatever. That's the thing. That's what saved me. My not caring about the things in the way that other people cared about them really gave me like a lot of solace. So when I changed the locks, when I remembered these things, I changed the locks, and then everyone around uni started being like, you're gay, batty man. But I was with the angel, like the love of my life at that point, so I didn't really care. You still loved her? Sorry? You still loved her? No, not that toxic girl. I was with the Greek girl, and that's what she told me. She was like, I've seen the video. I know you're not gay, so what's the problem? And I was like, okay. So there's actually a video circulating? There was at the time, yeah. And she was like, lots of people, like this is to the extent of Asian people wanting to destroy each other. One of them, who I had cut off a long time before that, he goes to me, who are your friends? And I was like, why do you want to know that? He goes, no, because you don't chill with anyone that we see you with. Who are you chilling with? Yeah. And then he went and showed the people I told him, like silly me, right? I shouldn't have told him. He went and showed those people, and those people were like, we don't want to talk to anyone because you're gay. And I was like, okay. And then I found myself on my own again from like yeah, this whole like blackmail thing that she'd set up to make me. She said, "I'm gonna use you for everything you've got, then I'm gonna make you kill yourself, and then I'll be done with you." And then when the video went around, she was expecting me to do it, and I saw her, and I just started laughing at her. I was like, "I'm so happy right now. You can't do anything to fuck up my happiness."
Have you seen her since?
She keeps trying to get in contact with me, even to this day. She made a fake Tumblr account, and she said, "Can you hit me up if you're horny and you want to chat?" And I said to her, "You remind me of someone I used to know a long time ago, and it's very sad when your life revolves around sex. It becomes very lonely." And she started having a go at me and blah blah. I knew it was her, and even now to this day, like I'm very considering, should I get a restraining order? Should have got it when I was at uni, didn't. I mean, I think these people, they're trolls, right? Like, the reason why she stopped bugging me is because I just ignored her. She stopped getting a reaction out of me, so
how many... Let's go back to the question. How many times have you been drunk?
Under 10, but more than 7. I can't be as precise. It's really funny as though they were talking about this on the Joe Rogan podcast. They were saying, I wonder if there's any guys out there who've been roofied, because we always hear about it with girls, but never guys. And when I came out about it, other guys said it happened, but all of us have said the same thing. We were embarrassed.
Does this make you question sex? Like, in general, sex? Like, do you feel weird about it?
Yeah, I did for a long time, man. But then I met my girlfriend at the time.
You still with her now?
Nah, man. Oh, that hurts. Because I broke it off with her because, like, God was telling me at the time, this woman has helped you put yourself back together, but you're dragging her down. Like, if I stayed with her, I wouldn't have grown, because I would have been like, she's always there for me, and she would have stunted her growth for me. So, like, we spent a year together. Like, shit, man. She was like, she's the reason why I'm not weird about sex, because she loved me in all of my weirdness, and she slowly, like, she said, "You're a prude, like, you don't want to try any of this stuff like that other guys have tried with me." And I'm like, I was like a virgin, because all the sex I'd had was not good, and with really fucked up situations. Like, that girl, she would have sex with groups of guys, and the vagina is supposed to be like friction, whatever, like, supposed to be nice and tight. She would make me have sex with her, and just to show me, like, it's really wide, and she'd be like, "You can't please me because you're not a man," and stuff like that. So a lot of... I mean, she was very... she didn't want to talk about it, but when we'd first met, she opened up about some bad sexual experiences she'd had, like being sexually assaulted. Yeah, and, you know, she'd basically, she wanted me to experience the shame and the guilt that she was... I don't know, maybe that's just me conjecture as well. Maybe, yeah, man. I mean, I don't like to speak too much on them, because I can't... Like, she's told me a lot, and she had sex with her own brother a lot of the time. Like, I watched them as well. Like, I walked in on them doing it. There's a lot there, man. It's not really like... I've been wanting to talk about that situation for a long time on the YouTube channel, but I could never do it before without judging it. And I don't want it to come from that place.
Why do you think sex is so, like, such a thing within people? Like,
because we put clothes on at one point. I think that's all it comes down to, bro. One day we put clothes on, and suddenly something happened with shame.
That's so bad. That's so bad.
Do you think about it though, right? You know, if, like, for me, I don't go into the... When I go into the...
That's blowing me away a little bit still.
You know, when I go into the men's changing room, like after yoga or something, I don't have a shower there, bro. I don't want to look at no one's dick. I don't want no one looking at me, because I know I'm weird about sex. Like, I've been through a lot of stuff with that, so that's my thing. But I always thought about it, like, if we were walking down the road and you had, like, you just saw dicks and vaginas and tits and arse and stuff generally, like, I probably wouldn't be that weird about it. I'd be like, all right.
No, it makes sense.
But I think that, and I didn't make that up, the whole clothes thing, but I haven't heard anyone put it like that, but that's what makes sense to me. Because I think when you sexualize children, it's because, like, with something, like, you're hiding something, then it becomes a taboo, and then it becomes don't talk about it, and then it becomes something more. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, if we were all standing in a room naked and there was children present and one guy's got a boner, we'd be like...
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. has this whole situation changed the way you look at people? Because me being naive, I'm listening to your story and thinking to myself, I didn't believe people could be so cruel. Like real talk, especially like with the whole sexual thing. Like,
yeah.
so, I could see the power in it, but then the way people exercise that, it's just crazy to think people could be so cruel. Do you have that?
Yeah, I mean, it just shows weakness, to be honest. The weakest man is the one who desires everything, and the most powerful man is the one who desires nothing. And that's something I live my life by from now on, forever. Because I think weakness is cruelty, because you only being cruel to yourself. Everyone's a reflection of each other. This is what I believe. So if I see a child that I know I can manipulate or use in whatever way I want to, if I do that, it's because I want to have that power over someone because I don't have it over myself. But me having power over myself, I choose what I do, I choose who I talk to, I choose who I love, all those things. I don't need to do anything to anyone else. But the weakest people in this society are the ones who are refusing to confront. Bless you. The weakest people in the society we live in are the ones who are refusing, like absolutely refusing to go in here and have a look at what was going on. But look, cruelty, I mean, I get what you mean, man. I took myself out of society for almost 3 years. I was abstinent. I cut off everyone, didn't have any friends, didn't go to the cinema, didn't do anything, grew my beard out, grew my hair out. Like, I stopped doing a lot of things. I stopped watching TV. I stopped using social media. I got a new Instagram account. I just followed positive quotes. And I unlearned everything. Well, everything. I unlearned a lot of things. And the cruelty thing, I did feel it back then because I was scared to trust people ever again. And yeah, now I have like, you know, I have like it's going to sound weird, but I audition people to be in my life because I know how special I am and I know I have good intentions. And if I feel from someone that they don't, well, you don't meet my criteria, so you can't be involved.
Has that taken a while to get that value back in your life then?
Yeah, it's taken experience. You know, I did it in baby steps. Like, I had massive social anxiety because I was just scared of, like, you know, I met this Spanish girl in 2015 when we got our first dog, and she was so into me, but I was so scared. Like, why are you into me? Like, I'm scared, man. Like, I don't want to have anything to do with you. Even like I worked with the personal trainer for almost a year. He was like, let's go out for a drink. I was like, no. I don't know what you're going to do to me. I didn't say that to him, but I was like, I'm not getting drunk around anyone. I've never drank alcohol for over 3 years now. I don't plan on doing it because maybe people can say it's fear, coming from fear, but I'll never put myself in that position where I'm vulnerable like that ever again. And yeah, I'm an all or nothing person. Either we're having all the bottles or none.
I hear that. That's like, so you going into the role you're doing now, all that in the back, it's almost like you're healing other people. Is it fair to say you're possibly trying to be the person you wish you had?
I'm being the person that I've always, like, I have a vision of who I want to become, right? So future me, he's got a long grey beard, he's got long hair as well. And he talks to me sometimes and I'm like, I try and live my life by two people. Like, would he be proud of me, my grandfather, and would future me be proud of me? So, like, yeah, I'm trying to be, you know, the person that I wish that was there for me was future me. And I didn't realize, but he's been guiding me. So when I speak with people in transformational coaching, I look at it like, not who do they need me to be, but what is this person bringing to me that I've also seen in my own journey, that I've also seen in others, that I know that I've seen this before, and how can I bring it to their awareness without telling them what to do? Because I think that's like the most powerful thing is when you come to your own realizations. If I can ask you some questions that facilitate that whole process, great. But I'm never going to tell someone this is what you need to do and this is why, unless it's very dire and I can see that, okay, for example, like I was speaking to someone who's had a lot of sexual abuse in their past and they kept being around the person who had done it to them when they were a kid. And I just said to him straight up, if you want to work with me, you have to get rid of that person. And they said, well, can't do that. I said, fine, we can't work together. And here's some resources I'll point you in the right direction of. Here's a therapist. Here's some numbers that you can call for survivors and police and stuff like that. But I can't be involved in that in good conscience. I don't want that energy in my life because I feel like I'm perpetuating the paedophilic abuse.
Would you consider yourself a survivor?
Not really. I don't like the word. It indicates that like you're just scraping by. I'm just.
Quite in a sense of like in trauma and stuff you're going through that.
I don't like. I think the word is very disempowering, bro, because it suggests that, oh man, this was like really bad, and I'm more of the opinion that, bro, it's as normal as I ate some pancakes. All right, yeah, like when I was young, some shit happened, but when today, like my dog barked at me. I don't think it should be, for me, this is me coming out of the other side of it now. It's not a big deal as it used to be. And the word survivor indicates that I have some sort of like, I survived and I need to like make sure I remember it. Like I look at it in a very different way. Like I'm normalized those experiences to myself so that when the flashbacks come up or when the memories come up or when the resentment comes up, oh yeah, I remember that. It's also like I dropped some blueberries on the floor. I'm resentful about that. Wasted £3. You know how annoying that is?
that to me, that sounds powerful though. That what you just said to me holds a lot of power, and I respect that. What advice would you give for people? Just wrapping this up. Right? What advice would you give for people going through depression and also going through trauma? Because I believe obviously you've been through a lot of trauma, and I think you have interesting coping mechanisms. And it's weird. You know what? I'll go to your question, right? Let me go a bit off topic a little bit. I had no idea what we were going to talk about. No, like, you have an idea, right?
Yeah.
Like, I've tried to keep it that way. I've tried to not have as much communication with you prior to our talk. So, and then how I work is when we meet up, I'll ask you questions, we'll start talking, I'll get you used to talking to me and answering questions, and then when we sit down, we'll straight at it. Right? But so I had no idea. I just thought to myself, look, this is a guy that took some conscious stuff and I think it's dope, let's just chat, let's have a chat.
Yeah.
And then you drop this on me and I'm like, this is mad, like, wow. And I commend you so much for having the strength to talk about it. To talk about it in the manner that you're doing. It's almost like you're talking about it, but you're not being a victim to it. The thing of you, the survivor thing really hit me, just because of everything you've gone through and how you can just talk about it so flippantly, even though I know it's not a flippant situation. So again, back to my question, what advice do you give people and how do you tell people to almost adopt a similar mindset that you have right now?
You hit the nail on the head, man. You know when you're a victim, you blame stuff all the time.
Yeah, bro.
Like, you could be a victim of traffic.
Bro, come on. Bro.
You could be a victim of traffic. I used to have really bad road rage, believe it or not. I used to have really bad road rage to the point where I got out of the car one day and I was about to have a fist fight with a guy who pulled out a knife. He goes, "You want to die today?" And I was like, no. He goes, "Shut up and get back in your car." And that reminded me of being a victim of traffic, which is like the situations that we go through, right? So like for me, I got PTSD, bipolar disorder. Well, that's kind of subsided because I cut stuff out of my life. I got manic depression. You feel on top of the world one day, you feel like shit the next. You know, I've got some type of, whatever the labels are, right? I believe that if you're a victim to the label, it means that you allow it to govern your life. Which means that you allow it to dictate who you are, how you behave, the things you do. And my whole thing is like, if that's where you're at right now, let's embrace it. Let's sit with it and be like, okay, I'm a victim of traffic right now. I'm acting a fool. I'm acting a fool right now because the light turned red and he cut in front of me. I didn't crash the car. I can still walk. Like I'm good. Accept that I'm a victim of the traffic. And then assess where I want to go forward. So I created this model. It's called the 4 A's. I don't know if it's out there. I just came up with it one day. The first A is acknowledge. So that you acknowledge I'm a victim. Then you accept it. You're damn right I'm a victim. You're fucking right I'm getting pissed off with that. You cut in front of me, Jonathan. Fuck you.
Fuck you, Jonathan.
Yeah, fuck that guy. By the way, there was no one who abused me called Jonathan.
No, it's fine. No, but I know what you do. I do the same thing. We'll go to what you're saying, but when I talk in some way, I'll probably sorry when I talk about the car.
Yeah. So then you accept that you're enraged, right? And then after that, you assess, like, all right, if this isn't where I want to be right now, where do I want to be? What does that best lifestyle look like to me? And then the last one is you act in accordance with where you want to be. And for the victim thing, for the getting out depression thing, for all of that stuff, is, okay, what does my life look like without depression? And some people can't even imagine it. But let's go wildest dreams right now. It could be like I'm sitting on the beach sipping on whatever mocha loca choke. I don't know what the fuck the thing is, but you're sipping on something. You got some fine people around you. You're in the pool. You're eating something nice. How did you get there? Oh, we took a stroll from the beach house, and we all had a party here. It was great fun. Okay, what's your mindset like? Oh, I'm free, happy, chill, no anxiety, no stress. Oh, why? Because my life isn't built around a series of, oh, well, I gotta be at this day, I gotta be here, I gotta be there. You get there slowly, right? It's taken me, I had a little breakdown last year because I achieved things that I thought were going to take me over a decade in 3 years. But it's only happened because I took radical action. So all of my advice for other people is always practical. Look at where you want to be and remove the things that don't match up with that now. So for me, it was, I used to work in a bank, had to get rid of it because it doesn't match up with where I want to be. Then I took this 70% pay cut to go and work in an office where I was the only employee doing menial monkey work, like manual admin nonsense from archiving physical files and stuff. But I took my laptop there, listened to podcasts, listened to audiobooks, did a lot of self-development, started my blog. I learned a lot, and dedicating your life to learning about yourself, about the world, about other people, about the things you've been through, that's what's going to allow you to move through it, move with it, not having the resistance on you. And yeah, the main thing I would say for everyone is like, you choosing to be where you are right now. There's no one else is forcing us to do anything. There's no gun to your head right now. And if there is, you're probably not going to be around for very long. So my advice doesn't mean shit anyway. So if the gun is not to your head, look at your I have to's and think about whether or not you want to have them there. My I have to's were a list of bullshit that come from the culture. I just said I don't want to live by I have to. I want to live by I choose to, or I get to.
Has it taken you a while to adopt that sort of mentality?
Yeah, it took me a while, but the best thing is, like, again, radical action. I cut out everyone from my life and just started from scratch. Some people I've reconnected with, and I had to explain to them, I was like, look, man, this is where I was at. I was not in a good place. And even if you were around me when I was going through it, you knew I was being a dick. And they were like, yeah, we did. So I just said, this is why I did it. I hope you can understand. Can we move through it? Some of them said, yeah. Most of them said, fuck you. So I said, all right. You know, there's a couple billion people. I haven't counted them all, so I don't know. There's loads of people on the planet, man. Go and make friends with some different ones. You know what I'm saying?
Let's end on Japan. When you go to Japan?
I'm going in April, man, and there's so many things I'm excited about. Yeah, it's been really weird. When I decided on going, things started coming into my life. Like, I met this woman recently. Oh man, yeah, exciting. Because I said I put off relationships for a long time.
I can imagine.
Yeah, I put off relationships for ages, and then I met her, and she was like, she just wanted to take stuff slow, and I was like, cool.
I'm glad I got to chat to you before Japan, man.
Thank you, man. Same.
Go on.
I was not expecting. I didn't know what to expect when we were chatting, but I can't wait to have you as a guest on my podcast. I got a billion questions for you.
I can't wait to come on it, man. That'll be interesting, bro. Seriously, just tell me when.
Yeah.
Tell me when, man. Just tell me when. It's been touching, bro.
Yeah,
man. Thanks. Cool.
Thank you.
No worries, man. Damn, bro.